Hello and welcome to this workshop on creating your vision and how to follow through. My name is Katrina Horn. I'm a life coach and I help my clients close a gap between their real lives and their ideal lives. And that includes vision. I'm really invested in this idea that we all have a vision for our lives and what we want it to be like. I think that's really how we get the most out of it, in the sense that it gives us direction, right? And it makes us really conscious about what it is we want to create in this lifetime. And it makes everything so much easier. So to start off with, I would love to know whether you're here live or on the replay, if you already have got a vision. So please put into the chat, yes, if you've got a vision, or no, if you haven't got a vision. And that way I will know where you're at. So a vision for me is like, my dream is to live in a chateau here in the south of France where I live. But my vision is much bigger than that dream. But obviously my vision encompasses that dream, where I can see myself living in my chateau, creating a lot of beauty around me, having people come and stay, and to share that beauty, having self-love retreats and helping people feel so good about themselves. So Nick has got a vision. Great. Brilliant. So anybody else? Okay, Bina doesn't. So I'm not sure how I pronounce your name, but please feel free to scold me if I don't pronounce it correctly. But let's move in. Right now, you might be feeling unmotivated. You might be feeling tired or exhausted, feeling stuck at any rate, or have little to no excitement about life. Like, you're not feeling energized, right? You're sort of going through the motions, if you see what I mean. And that's not how you want it. You want to have that sparkly energy. You want to have a clear purpose. You want that determination and that direction that will make everything in life so much easier. Having a vision has you get up in the morning with a spring in your step, as I like to say. It has you be able to set boundaries without overcomplicating it or making it mean anything about you or other people, because you want to protect your vision, you want to nurture it, and you're very aware of it. Also, it helps you make decisions effortlessly, because you'll either know, or you'll know whether it fits into your vision or whether it doesn't. So all that becomes so easy. Decisions just, they seem to be a self-evidence, right? And also vision gives you confidence. But what you might be doing in order to get into all of that goodness in life, into feeling that confidence, into having that energy, you just push yourself more. And you could even be thinking that there's something wrong with you. Like, well, everybody else seems to be doing it, like on Instagram and everywhere. I can see all these people living beautiful lives. What's wrong with me? Why aren't I? And you can also be in that kind of a waiting attitude, like where you're sitting there thinking, it would be lovely if so-and-so happened. It would be great if this was so. And you're sort of waiting as if you're waiting for a cue. And what I'm hoping today is that this will be your cue, all right? Not just to have your vision, not just to nurture your vision, but to follow through on it, right? So you make it reality. So are you with me on this? Can I have a yes in the chat, please? A yes in the chat, please, if you are with me on this. So you could be experiencing a lack of focus. You could be experiencing this restlessness, thinking about when X, Y, Z happens, then I'll do. And you could also be not knowing what your next step is and sort of be caught up in that. You could be sort of procrastinating and thinking, oh, I don't know how to get a promotion. I don't know how to find my dream home or my dream man. And all of this is really exhausting because you're trying a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and nothing seems to stick, and you don't seem to be getting anywhere with it. So what I want you to take away from this workshop is how to use your vision really as that inspiration for feeling engaged in life, fully connected, full of confidence, feeling that purpose every day that will have you sort of get out of bed with all that enthusiasm and eagerness for participate in your life. And what I like to work with my clients on is to craft that life that sort of fits you like a glove, because it has you be all of who it is you can be. It has you sort of tap into what is positive to create that positive outlook on life and not focus on what is negative. Not that we want to deny any sort of things that are not ideal, but we want to focus elsewhere. So once you do that, once you really tap into everything that is positive, everything that's going well in your life, that can fuel you to create more of it. So what you'll save really here is a lot of heartache, a lot of time and money and trying without getting any results, of starting something, then stopping, and then wondering what's wrong with me. I want you to really use your vision as fuel. So about me, just briefly, some years ago, I was really living what I would say was my dream life. Like I was living here, like in my dream house that I'd done up exactly how I wanted, with my dream man, with my dream work, like everything was really, really good. And I was getting a little bit stale. Do you recognize that? Where it's sort of, you do things on automation and you don't really know why you're doing it, and you don't feel that you're going anywhere. So let me know if you've ever experienced that in life, that sort of idea that, yeah, things are okay, like nothing to complain about, but I'm just not feeling that sparkle really, right? So that happens to us, and that happened to me. And I thought, well, what's next, really? What is next? And I'm so grateful to my coach at that time, who allowed me to see that it was okay to want more. It was okay to be very satisfied and grateful with what I already had, but then also allowing myself to believe that I was allowed to have more. And that could be your case. I also talk a lot in my coaching about not changing because you're suffering, but changing because you want something even better. So I say that you can change through suffering, or you can change through desire. You can create that change by what you desire. And that requires a few things. And we'll be diving into some of that now. So I've always had dreams. I hope you do too. And I hope that you want to make some of them reality. So having your vision can do more than just have you feel good, right? It can actually help you design that life of your dreams, and the feeling good is what will get you to take the action steps to follow through. So let me just really dive into our content today. So it would be good if you had a pen and paper ready, or if you're very good at writing on your phone or whatever, so that because we'll be doing an exercise, and it's really good to have some written evidence for that you can always go back to. We're not carving anything in stone here. Like, we are just having your first rough draft of your vision, and we can go back and modify it. We can always change it, but it's so good to start playing around with it. So I know that Nikki's already got her vision that is perfect. Maybe she wants to tweak it a little bit. If you haven't got your vision, not to worry. This is perhaps your first step. So what gets in the way of having really a vision for your life is that you don't believe you can have it. So what happens when you don't believe you can have it is because you think something outside of me needs to change for me to be able to have it. So that could be, I need more money really to create my vision for traveling the world, or I need the right partner who supports me to start my own business, or whatever it is. You believe it's outside of yourself. And that is what we in coaching call disempowerment, because we have got no control over the outside circumstances, or often we don't. Like, we can't really control what happens around us in life. We might want to, but let's just recognize that we can't control all of it. So I'm going to invite you to do in the follow through is to take responsibility for what you can control. And that is really what will empower you to make it happen, because we are empowered, meaning that we have got agency when we take responsibility. So I'm going to talk about that. But just to let you know that you won't change your circumstances by working harder, by doing more of what you're already doing. You could also be having a small vision. I was talking to a lady the other day. Her desire for her life was to have less of a commute. So that is a place to start, but it can't really fuel your life. Like, it can't really lift you up so much. It is, again, being in so much suffering that your vision and goals are so tiny that they can't get you motivated. So we need to lift you out of that. We need to get you inspired, and then we need to work on your belief. If you don't believe something can happen, well, then it can't, and you won't take action towards it. So it will stay a daydream. It will stay perhaps even a fantasy, and that's not what we want. So we need to build a vision for you that is big enough for you to be inspired. And I like to talk about inspiration a lot. I can see that more people have joined. Please feel free to participate in the chat here live. If you're watching the replay, you can always comment in the comment box below. Right, I always want to hear from you. Let me get back to what I was saying. So, I'm going to talk about this piece, which is responsibility. And when I coach with people, there are really 5 steps to this dream life. The first being desire, like nurturing your desire. And that is what I mentioned earlier about allowing there to be more. Not thinking, oh, I've already got so much, I should be grateful. Right? It's allowing that vision of more to come in. Step number 2 is creating the belief in possibility, because as I say, if you don't believe it's possible, well, then it isn't. Nothing can happen that you don't believe is possible. So we have to open up to possibility. Third step is to let go of the need to justify. Right? And I was just talking to a group of ladies the other day, and we talked about having a private jet. Now, if you don't live somewhere where everybody has a private jet, or at least you know a few people who've got a private jet, chances are that you won't even formulate that desire. You're not aware that this is a possibility, right? So we are limited in what we think is possible by what we see around us. That is called confirmation bias. So we're taking our cue from everything around us, and we're making that sort of the basis for what we will allow ourselves to have. And we believe that because we find we have to justify what we want, right? So that's why I'm always using my example of wanting to live in a chateau, because nobody can justify needing to live in a chateau, right? And I know nobody personally who lives in a chateau. When I was younger, I thought you would have to be noble to live in a chateau, or your family would need to have one for generations, right? Or I need to marry into a chateau, or something crazy like that. I wasn't aware that you could actually just go out and buy yourself one. right? So once you've got that access to more possibility, well, then it gets to be a lot more joyful. The fourth step is to take responsibility for what you can be responsible for. And the fifth step is to relinquish control. So that might sound a little bit contradictory, but maybe it will be clearer as we move along. So before we go into the exercise I've prepared for you, has anybody got any questions for me? Any comments? Anything that has not been clear so far? So we're going to do an exercise, and you can participate in the chat, or you can just write down on your paper. I want you to think about, what do you really want in life? What is it that would really fire you up? And we're going to go into a few areas of your life. And my first area that I want to dive into is relationships. So you can take your romantic relationship, you can take relationship with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues, with your children, any kind of relationship. And then really think about, well, what would feel good? What would really be so delicious? And if you can be specific, it would be really, really useful. So you can, of course, have an idea about, I want my relationships to be fulfilling. But then what does that look like? So for instance, for me, just as an example, in my friendships, I want them to be deep, and of course fulfilling. But what I mean by that is that when I meet up with my friends, I want to be able to immediately go in to a deep conversation where we're not talking about so-and-so and where they went on holiday and looking at the holiday photos and that kind of thing. I want to be able to talk about the real stuff, like our feelings and what we think. And I'm a little bit philosophically minded, so I like talking about that too, but really going much deeper. And of course, we can talk about holidays and all of that too, but I want to have access to something that I find much more interesting to talk about. So that would be how I would illustrate my desire for something to be deep. Okay, so the 5 steps, I'll repeat them later, Nikki, for you. So, any other good comments or questions? Welcome to people who are joining. Welcome. So you can always participate in the chat. For the moment, I asked you, what would you like your relationships to be like? Feel free to put something in the chat so we can witness you and love on you. What would your relationships be like in your vision? Romantic, friendships, family. What would it be? What would fill you up? And then we're going to move on to work or career or whatever you do, like most of the time in your life. So it could be bringing up your children, could be going out to work, could be having your business, could be doing up your house, it could be whatever, but what really occupies you, your work. So if you don't know what your ideal work would be, you can think about, well, what would I really like to do during my day? If I describe what I do during my day, which is ideal, is I sit around a lot. I sit around and I look around and I don't do anything. And I'm sort of halfway in between being present here, but also being inside of myself. And then I connect with my clients, my lovely people. That is mostly in the afternoon for me. So I connect with them, I talk with them, I get to share a lot of things with them. That feels so good. Before I used to be a musician, and my day was a little bit the same, because in the morning I would do the same, sit around, be with myself, think my thoughts. And in the afternoon, I might have rehearsals. And then in the evening, I would have a concert. So that also felt gorgeous, right? So if you don't know exactly, like, let's say you want to start a business, but you don't know exactly what that would be about, well, what would you like to be doing during the day? Any ideas? Any questions? Oh, I love it. Trusting, tolerant, understanding, open, listening in your relationship. Yes, so good. Bena or Bina. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. Yes, so that's how you want to feel. You want your relationships to feel you want to feel. What would it look like? Would it look like spending time with them? Would it look like being available for them? What would it look like? Having gorgeous meals together? Meeting up? Going traveling together? What would it look like? And then I'm going to move on to a different area of your life. Let's talk about health. So I take it that you want to be healthy, right? We want to be healthy, all of us, I think. But what would that look like? So to me, at 57, oh, I think Leanna's got something about work. You want to support women with their health. Yeah, giving them encouragement and faith in the possibility and live their purpose. Wow, gorgeous. Yes. Yeah. What does that look like tangibly? What does that look like, Leanne? Let me know in the chat. Would you be a coach, life coach like me, a health coach, health professional? Brilliant. So good. Yeah, great. But talking about health, possibly Leanna could talk a lot about that. Sorry, Leanne. But for me, at 57, I want to be able to always go on a bike ride, go on a hike, for a day, for a week. I want to be able to dance all night if I want to. And to do so, I really have to do exercise on a regular basis. If I don't, I might just be like so many other elderly people, like sort of making our world smaller and smaller and not being able to do so much. I've got friends my age who say, oh, I can't do that at my age, which is just craziness to me. We're only 57. We can still do everything we want. So to be able to always, like, on the spur of a moment, be able to go on a walk, on a hike, I have to really keep up with my body. Like, so I choose to do some exercise every day. I do weightlifting, I do stretching, I do yoga. I go for walks, I go on my bike, I do all of that all the time to keep in shape. And then I also like the way it makes me look and that I don't put on weight and all the rest of it. So that is really in my interest to make an effort, do the things so that I can. Right, Emma, lovely. Great. So I really encourage you. Well, also you can think about, well, being healthy, what am I eating in my vision? What am I eating? I'm sure you're no longer eating emotionally, like I'm sure you're eating healthily. So maybe you can think about, well, how could I enjoy vegetables more than chocolate? I don't know. But sort of let your mind wander on these questions. Now, what would it look like? And then I'd like to ask if anybody here has got children. I know that Emma does. Who has got children here? Anybody? I don't. I'm 57 and I'm not going to have any children in my life. And that's by choice. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, I get that, Leanne. 4 children. My goodness, you're a pro. So I'm talking about children because I used to be a teacher too. And I really noticed that children don't do what you tell them to do. They model themselves on what we do, on how we are. So if any mothers are here and they want their children to take good care of themselves, they have to take good care of themselves. Right? It's not by telling them, you must take care of yourself, you must get enough sleep. It's by doing it, it's by modeling it. Right? So think about, if you've got children, what would you like to model to them? Who do you want to be? Not for your children, but as something they can look at and be inspired by. Not to copy you, but just to know that this is how you can be in the adult world. What do you want them to see is possible? If you want them to see that something is possible, then show them. Don't just tell them, show them. That's what I'm saying. So that was sort of a brief introduction to what you can do. You can go through the whole life wheel and find out, well, in all areas of my life, well, what do I actually want it to be like, feel like? What do I want it to look like, really specifically? And then my next question is, how do you want to feel at the end of your day in that vision of your life? Like a typical day, at the end of the day, what is your number one feeling? And that you can share in the chat. Right. I'm just reading the comments, taking it in. But how do you want to feel at the end of the day? So right now, I want to feel, well, yesterday I said I want to feel spent, but in the best of senses. I want it to, or I want, and I most often do, but not all the time, but most often sit back and think, Katrina, you've really used all of who you are. You've really connected deeply with people. You've had meaningful conversations, done your best, which wasn't perfect, but you've done your best. You put effort into it. You lived up to your very high standards some of the time, and that is good enough. I want to have that feeling of, right, I lived my life well today. And for me, that is being spent. Not that I'm exhausted, but I'm a bit tired because I really have been using myself. That's how I want to feel. Yeah, Emma wants to feel satisfaction. Even just a smile to others. Yeah, but what about you, Leanne? How are you feeling? At the end of the day, why would you smile at other people? Why would you do that? Why would you want to do that? Fulfilled, says Bina. Yes. What does that look like, Bina? Try to be specific. If not in the chat, then at least to yourself on paper. And let me know if you want to. What would some of the actions be that would have you feel that at the end of the day? What would have you feel fulfilled? What would have needed to happen during the day? So for me, it's like connecting with other people, finding out about myself, like finding out new things that I didn't know about myself, connecting on a deeper level spiritually, finding out new things, having been curious, learned something new. I love that. Possibly, well, I like being out in nature, so that is also something that I strive for and I want to put into all my days. So that at the end of the day, I can sit back and say, oh, I lived a good life today. You see what I mean? So now we've got a sort of basis of what your life could be like. I'm just pausing here that so you can really feel, right. And if you're watching the replay and you haven't quite done all of it, just pause it and you can sort of finish things up and expand on things if you want to. And my next question is in that sense, something that will help you expand. I'm going to ask you, what would you want if you didn't have to justify it, having it, or wanting it? What else would you have? Yeah, I get that, Leanne. But maybe, I mean, from what you've said in the chat, yeah, what you've said in the chat just makes me think that you are very keen or focused on helping others, right? Now do the same for you. We can get so carried away in helping others, children, clients, but really our first duty is to ourselves. And I'll perhaps talk more about that later. So what would you like to have if you didn't have to justify it? So we can go back to the private jet. We can go back to my chateau. Like these are such wild things that there couldn't possibly be any justification for it. Let's just go that notch up. Let's just expand a little. Let's just up level. I'm not telling you to go out and achieve it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just as a mind experiment. I remember with my coach that when I didn't have a very ambitious vision for my life, I didn't think that I could include things like beauty. And I thought that, well, that was a little bit frivolous. Like that was not important in life. I could just have that, could I? But when I really embraced the idea that, yeah, maybe actually beauty is part of my vision, and that is good enough. Beauty can be healing, right? Beauty can be creative. I want beauty, and I don't need to tell you why. I don't need to need it. I can just have it. Yeah, I get that. I get that, Leanne. So I've got so much to say on that score, Leanne. So much, but it's going to be a little bit personal, so I don't want to say it here. So maybe we could set up a time to chat outside of here. But I get that. I really do. Right. I'll come back to that, but I won't comment too heavily because, yeah, it's a little bit personal. But let's move into one of my last questions, which is, imagine your 80th birthday out in the future. Like you're quite old, and if somebody's 80 here, please forgive me, but I mean, at 80, we are quite old, aren't we? Not so old that there's not plenty of life left, but we have lived like the greater part of our lives. So at 80, imagine your birthday party. Imagine the people there. And all of them forming a long line with you standing at the head of the line, all of the the people you invited to your birthday in the line, and then coming up to you one by one and saying, thank you. Thank you for, and then they tell you what you meant to them. They thank you for being who you are, what you meant for them. What would they be telling you? What was the impact that they had on you? Let me know. So in my case, I would like for people to form a nice orderly queue and come up and thank me for having mostly been kind. Kindness is one of my values. So they come up to me, they say, thank you, Katrina, for having mostly been kind to me. I would like them to come up and say to me, thank you for showing me what is possible. Thank you for supporting me in my wildest dreams. Thank you, Emma, for seeing me. Yes. Really seeing them, right? Thank you for taking the time to find out more about me. What would you have liked, really, to have people say on the 80th birthday, thank you? So I'm pausing slightly. If you're watching the replay, just pause completely and write down a few sentences. What would you really like? I would like people to come up and say to me, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for believing it was possible. What would it be for you? So once you've done all that and you've got plenty of ideas, like it's not final, it's still a work in progress, and that is all good. I want you to focus now on the follow through, because as long as we've got our vision, as long as it's just like a daydream, something we fantasize about, it's not very likely to happen. And it's not very likely to happen if you don't believe it's possible. So let's just work on our belief in the possibility by telling ourselves that we're going to follow through. We're going to take action on this. And when you believe that it's possible and that inspires you to take action, that is when you start really living out your vision, whether you're there or not, whether you're actually living your dream life or whether you're just on your way there. Because you'll be bringing in more and more of the elements that make up your dream life, that make up your vision. You'll be starting to connect on that deeper level with people. You will notice that people start saying, thank you for seeing me. So what I would like for you to do now in the follow through, like you remember there were 5 steps to creating that vision and living your vision. The first one being nurturing desire. So really desiring greatly and keeping that desire alive. Number 2 was to open up to the possibility. Start believing it's possible. And with my clients, I tell them you don't have to believe all of the time because that is almost impossible. When things haven't really yet happened, when things aren't really the way you want them, It's really difficult to believe all of the time that that's how it is. So doubt will come in. But if you manage to believe most of the time, that is when you get inspired to take the action. So the third step is to let go of the need to justify. Just let all of that go. We can do that right here, right now. Just start noticing when you talk to people and you're justifying. Like the example I give often is with dresses. Like, let's imagine you went to a gorgeous shop that sells dresses, clothes, and you saw this outfit that you think is divine. You try it on and it fits you and you look so great in it. How many times do you need to justify buying it by coming up with a friend's wedding where you need a new outfit or something like that? That this would be so useful for work. You've got a presentation on Wednesday. Just notice also with your food choices how you feel the need to justify everything. If you can just let go of the need to justify your desires, so much more becomes possible. And then the fourth step, which I'm going to talk about, is to take responsibility. So that responsibility can be as little as taking responsibility for the rest you get. In your vision, I'm sure you're not exhausted and burnt out. But instead of relying on the perfect time where you'll be perfectly rested, take matters into your own hand and grab that responsibility for it and say, I'm the person responsible for getting enough sleep. That is really the empowered version. And in coaching, we talk about being empowered. And that is really when we take responsibility. Another example is that I met a delightful woman the other day, and she also wants to live in a manor house. Her dream is she wants to live in the UK in a manor house, and she's currently living in the States. So we had a lot to connect about, right? And so I asked her, well, how is that going to happen? And she said, oh, I'm thinking that I will meet a lovely British man who has already got a manor house, and I will marry him and go and live in his manor house with him. And well, there's nothing wrong with that, being open to that happening. But she's giving away all her possibility of making it happen for herself, isn't she? Because this is dependent on outside circumstances, things she can't control. Of course, she can put herself into dating clubs with British gentlemen who are manor house owners, if that exists. Or she could sort of join a very high-end matrimonial agency, I suppose. And that would up her chances of it happening, right? But is that really how you want it to be? If you can take matters into your own hands, if you can take responsibility for everything, well, then you can also make it happen. So responsibility is not like a big dirty word. It's really empowering. So in my example with sleep, when you take responsibility for getting enough sleep, you're not blaming your boss for preventing you from sleeping. You're not blaming your children, your husband, whatever. Like, you're really saying, oh, right, I'm in charge of this. How can I get enough sleep? And then you put up the boundaries for it, right? Then you create the circumstances, the possibilities, the situations where you can get enough sleep. So in everything you've written down so far, in all your visions so far, what is the one thing you can take responsibility for right now? And then choose one action step to take today. So if it is that you want in your vision to be always at your best because you're well rested, you don't feel you've got too much to do, you're not overwhelmed, you're just chilled out, relaxed, confident, and feeling good, How can you take responsibility for one of the action steps of being like that today? Like, what would get you into a position, a state of being where you would feel rested? If you were to take on that responsibility, what would it be today? I would love to know that in the comments. Because when you put it here in the comments, you're sort of committing to it, aren't you? And that would be so good, to commit to it. What can you commit to today that you will follow through on? And don't choose 3 things or 10 things. You don't want to do it all. You just want to have one thing that you can focus on. And so you keep taking that action step. And we can talk about sleep because many of my clients really find it difficult to go to bed on time so that they get enough rest. And it sounds so simple. Well, just go to bed earlier, right? But it can be so complicated. It really can. So if you commit it right here, right now with me and all the other lovely people here to do one thing, what would it be? Could be commit to switching off your screens at 10 p.m., doing your night care routine at 10:30, being in bed at 10:45, switching off the lights, going to sleep so that you would be sure to be asleep at 11 p.m. How would that feel? Who would you be if you were able to do that? Who's the person who does that? Is that a version of you? And if so, what version of you is that? Who are you when you get enough rest? And are you willing to make an effort for that person, really? I'm sure if it was your children, like if it was your grandmother, you would do everything needed, right? You'd bend over backwards to support them in getting to bed on time. What are you willing to do for yourself? Really? So pick one thing, just one thing, and commit to following through with it. So welcome if you're joining now. It's all good. There will be a replay. But we are not going to stop here. We're going to also just keep in mind that if I continue with my example of sleep, we can only control what we can control. Meaning, I can control when I go to bed. I can control so many things around that. I can be in the right mindset. I can make sure to be in a calm state. I can be sure not to be excited. I can have several things in place to support me in doing that. That is within my control. So I take responsibility for it. Now, what I cannot control is my boss asking me to work overtime. Right? That is outside my control. So I'm not going to factor that in other than by setting boundaries around it and saying, when I'm asked to work till 10 p.m., well, I can't really be in bed by 11 and asleep. So how am I going to have my own back? And how can I release control or the desire to control what my boss decides? How can I let go of that? And not start thinking, oh, something has gone wrong because my boss asked me to work late. Let me not get involved with all that strife and struggle and anxiety and arguing with reality. Let me just observe, oh, like I'm being asked to work till 10 p.m. how can I create loving boundaries around this for myself? And how can I not spend my time and energy being upset about it? Right, that is really key. So what I would like for you to do is to relinquish that control for things you can't control. Like you can't typically control the weather. You can control what you wear in that weather, right? So recognize what you can't control and just let it go and create some loving boundaries around those things that will support you so that you don't sort of fall off and think, oh, now I can't ever go to sleep at 11 and things will be ruined and tomorrow I will be tired and all of that. No, right? Your response to things are under your control. How you respond to your boss and asking you to work till 10 is within your control. So, yes, Leanne is saying, take the time to sit with God and write out my vision and purpose for my business to get 100% sure of clarity. You definitely can do that. Emma says, I will say something sweet to myself before I go to sleep. Yes, bringing in more self-love. You are okay. You are okay, Emma. You're more than okay. And all's well, right? Everything is well. Everything is exactly the way it is. So that must be good, right? You can take responsibility for your response to circumstances. You can't control all circumstances, but you can control how you react to them. So, what can you create today to have the impact you desire in your life? Think back to your relationships, to your work, your health, your finances. How can you start today to create that impact? Choose one thing that you're responsible for, and then do that. Do that till it becomes habit. What were people thanking you for? What were people coming up and saying thank you for? You can have a little meditation on that later, or if you're on the replay, you can just press pause, start thinking about it, sit with it. What comes up for you? Stay with the idea, expand. Have we got any questions on all of that? Anything that is confusing? I know it's a lot of information, but you can really break it down, right? And one action step that you can take today is always the best action step, right? We don't have to be overwhelmed. We don't have to be confused. We just get to choose, really. We really get to choose. So that was the workshop. Now you've got another opportunity to take action. If you want to learn 5 steps that I talked about to embody your vision, you remember the nurturing desire, the opening up to possibility, the letting go of the need to justify, the taking responsibility and relinquishing control, you can develop those skills now, right? When you do that, you get to be the best version of who you are. And I would love for you to book a consult with me. Now, that is where we get to, where I get to articulate your vision with you. So articulating that vision will help you find clarity. And I just put the link to book a consultation in the chat. Feel free, go ahead, book in your consultation. I will help you articulate your vision on that consult. We'll dive into 4 areas of your life. I'll take you through my process. we'll deep dive into those 4 areas of your life, and I will sort of tease out of you what it is you would really like, what it is you would really like those 4 areas to look like. We get really specific. So that has value in and of itself because it gives you that clarity and that gives you that outside eye on your life so that I can really challenge you. I can challenge you to get out of what is immediately available to you. I can challenge you to dream big. So once we've created that vision, once we've articulated that vision, I will ask you to anchor it with impact. We do that by believing in possibility. Anchoring it with impact means that we find out why. Why do you want that? Why is that important to you? Right? And then you commit. You commit to that vision with me. And you also leave with some action steps that you can take right away to get started on living a life with vision, right? So at the end of that consult, if you want to learn the 5 steps with me, if you want us to build out your vision together, well, then that could be possible too, right? But your next step right now is to book that consult. Let me know if the link is working. You absolutely can, Leanne. Yes, you can also just book in a time. I think we've got things to chat about, Leanne, right? Really encourage all of you to book in a time so that we can really articulate your vision. What is your vision for your life? And why wouldn't you want to take action on it? What's getting in the way? Let me show you. So when you come on that consult, the value of it is that you will find out something new about yourself, right? We'll dive into who it is you really are and what. Thank you, Emma. Thank you. The link is working. If you're watching the link, if you're watching the replay, you can find the same link in the email that goes out with the replay. So when you are clear on your vision and you haven't stopped really before something big, like you haven't stopped at just, oh, this would feel sort of better. Like when you've really expanded into all of who it is you can be, so that you get to be who you can be. Now that is when life is fulfilling, and that is when you can sit down at the end of the day feeling really good about it, right? But having a vision and following that vision, building that life that encompasses everything you want, that is not just about feeling good. I think it's so much more. It's really like we've got this opportunity in life just to sort of go through it and survive, or we can make the most of it. And if we want to make the most of it, it doesn't mean that we are ungrateful. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with us. It's just we want more, and we can. We really can. I don't think we were put here just to get by. I think we're put here really to enjoy it. Yeah. So Leanne, when you go on the scheduler, even if you're in Canada, the scheduler takes into account where you are. So in Alberta, now is that on the East Coast or the West Coast? I'm sorry to be so ignorant. I know where British Columbia is. Alberta, that's sort of in the middle, isn't it? West Coast. Okay, so I'm 9 hours ahead of you. So right here now, it's 8 p.m. But the scheduler will factor that in. So you might have to scroll down to get to one of my evening times, which will be one of your morning times, if you see what I mean. Yes. Okay, it's 12. Okay, so I'm only 8 hours ahead of you. Right, so you positioned Alberta for me. Thank you. Right, well, I've got clients in Vancouver. and in Toronto. So those are the time zones I'm familiar with. So go ahead. So please, if you book a consult, don't think you owe me anything. Like, I'm doing you a favor, but you're doing me a favor too. Like, it's a win-win. It really is. So go ahead. If that speaks to you, if you'd like me to help you articulate your vision, this is your opportunity. Go ahead and book a consult. So I know the link is working. That is gorgeous. Is there anything else I can do for you? Have you got any questions about any of this? I'm happy to spend a few more minutes here if you are. If you're watching the replay, go ahead, comment below, ask the questions you want to ask below, or write me an email. You can just hit reply to the email, and I'll be more than happy to reply. So I think you can even unmute yourself, but be careful. If you unmute yourself, you will be on the video, you'll be on the replay. So if you don't want to do that, just type in the chat. You're more than welcome, Nikki. I enjoyed meeting you. Fabulous. And there are other people here I don't know at all. I'm not aware of knowing. So that's exciting. You are more than welcome, Bina. I would really want to know how to pronounce your name. Maybe one day, or maybe I could look it up. Where are you from, Bina? What country are you from? Germany, Bina. Okay. Yes, bye-bye, Emma. Lovely to have you here. I love the sunflower. Brilliant, Leanne. I'm so pleased. Can't wait. Can't wait to talk to you. Right, so I will leave you, love you and leave you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending an hour with me. I really appreciate that. I hope to connect with you now or later. Take care. Have a beautiful day. Bye for now.